What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We haven't talked about Alberta in about 5 minutes, so why not sit down and talk about what's happening on the independence front? In fact, no clickbait here. Donald Trump apparently being linked to funding Alberta independence. This one's crazy. I told you guys as time went on that you were going to see people coming out of the woodwork, people going a little wacko, because no matter how many numbers Albertans get, no matter how big the train of prosperity is running in Alberta, there's always going to be those who have their hedge funds, their investments, those in the government, those who have their claws sunk into the province that don't want the province leaving. But of course, they'll never tell you that. They'll just apply pressure where necessary. Well, it's my genuine pleasure to reveal Gil McGowan, who's tweeting out about Dr. Dennis Modry and the APP. This is a very serious revelation. People have been wondering who has been bankrolling Alberta separatists. It looks like there's a MAGA connection. Trump officials are said to have promised $500 million to help transition Alberta into the 51st state. Now, those with Trump derangement syndrome, it's absolutely hilarious. They always believe that it's 51st state. And in fact, Alberta Prosperity has said many times that they're not pushing for a 51st state. They're pushing for an independent Alberta. In fact, the article that's linked to this never once says that Alberta is going to become the 51st state. In fact, I've even said multiple times that, hey, my support with Alberta independence lies within Alberta becoming its own independent nation, its own republic. If it were to do that, we can have a good working relationship with the United States and make our own way. After all, that's what we want to do, is get away from corrupt government. And those who like Donald Trump, or those who like Republicans, the Republicans aren't always going to be in power. And I've always said that why would Alberta give up running away from Canada's national debt to inherit America's? It's no slap at Americans. In fact, shout out to all of our American viewers who join us on the channel. It's just a matter of asking a realistic question, that if you had the resources Alberta has, why wouldn't you want to try and keep that in Alberta and have good working relationships with the United States separate from Canada? That being said, let's get into the article that's attached to it. Trump officials discussed $500 million Alberta independence loan, separatist claims. Private details from a Washington, D.C. meeting about Alberta becoming the 51st state was revealed at the separatist event attended by DeSmog. This is absolutely hilarious. Officials in the Donald Trump administration discussed loaning the oil-rich province of Alberta hundreds of millions of dollars to help it become independent from Canada, a prominent separatist is claiming. I met with senior U.S. administrative officials just a couple steps away from the president himself, recalled Dr. Dennis Modry, the former CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project, a group devoted to pushing Alberta towards self-determination through provincial referendum. Well, yeah, we want our ability to vote for our freedom. When we walked into the conference room, the first comment was, "We recognize and support Alberta becoming the sovereign nation for the first time," he said. Now, there's no mention of that being a 51st state. It's becoming a sovereign nation. But again, these are the key words that you'll see these left-leaning articles always use. They use the word separatism. They use radicalism. 51st state. Modry was a member of the Commonwealth of Alberta delegation to Washington that in April traveled to the United States Capitol to outline the supposed benefits a sovereign Alberta and its vast energy resources can provide to the United States. So if you remember that was back when Jeff Rath was on television saying that we're sending delegates to the United States. It was around the time that Danielle Smith was down there, and they said that we want to discuss Alberta becoming its own sovereign nation. It was all over the news. So this is the same timeline we're talking about here. It says no media outlet has yet reported on what was actually discussed in meetings with Trump officials, but Modry revealed some specifics during a recent Alberta event promoting a Western independence agenda that was attended by DeSmog. We talked about a $500 million transition loan, transition meaning if the vote went through, that we would only draw down on as necessary as we work with the US to transition from a province to a country. So again, no word about 51st state, said Modry. He also claimed that they discussed a plan to prop up Alberta's currency where the US agrees to take every Alberta citizen's Canadian dollar and then exchange it for $1 US. This has been discussed at many APP events. Again, DeSmog acting like this is news, that nobody's heard of this. The US dollar is not only stronger, it's usually more traded that way. In fact, a lot of Canadian businesses trade on the US dollar. So it would be very beneficial for Alberta to adopt the US dollar over the Canadian dollar. It says here that the prospect of America recognizing Alberta as the 51st state isn't currently on the table. But wait a minute. It's not currently on the table. Well, hang on. Let's go back for a second. What does this tweet say? It looks like there's a MAGA connection. Trump officials said they have promised $500 million to help transition Alberta to the 51st state. Oh, somebody's got their info wrong. Okay. Sorry, had to point that out again. Okay, so the 51st state isn't currently on the table, but it could be if separatists, again that word, manage to get enough signatures to trigger a referendum declaring Alberta's sovereignty from Canada and then win enough votes to pass the referendum, he added. So it's very poorly discussed in this article. What the signatures are for is to trigger a question on a referendum ballot. It does not declare Alberta's sovereignty. It asks the question, should Alberta remain a part of Canada? Now, that's not the actual question, again, but then should the vote go through, it then wins enough votes to pass referendum. So this guy's got it all wrong, which again speaks volumes on the integrity of this article. Alberta, of course, can provide energy security, he said. It can also provide water security, agricultural security, forestry security, metal security, coal security, plus an industrious workforce. So there's tremendous benefit to the United States to work with us. Now, again, our American viewers are absolutely fantastic on this channel. In fact, anytime I hear from them, they're always talking about keeping their eyes on Alberta, that they support Alberta, that they welcome Alberta into working with the United States, becoming a partner with the United States. So again, shout out to our American viewers. You guys kick ass. You guys are awesome. DeSmog reached out to the Alberta Prosperity Project and the Trump administration seeking more clarity about Modry's claims, but didn't receive a response. Now, of course, they use the word separatists are gathering in Alberta again. Modry's remarks came during a mid-June separatism event in Red Deer. It was actually a town hall that was organized by the right-wing political website Rebel News. One of the title sponsors was the America Fund, an organization that believes in a bold new future, one where Alberta joins the U.S. as the 51st state. Well, that's the America Fund. That's not the APP. And keep in mind that when Rebel News hosted, if we're talking about the Rebel News event in June, we're talking about the debate that took place with Keith Wilson. That's separate from the Alberta Prosperity Project. Attendees expressed praise for policies and actions undertaken by the Trump administration, including its escalating deportations of immigrants. They forgot to put the word illegal in there. Illegal immigrants. When a member of the audience asked how an independent Alberta would control illegal immigration, Peter Downing, speaking on behalf of the American Fund, said, well, they, meaning America, got this wonderful agency called ICE, referring to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency that has triggered massive protests across the United States due to its aggressive raids on immigrant communities. Illegal immigrant communities. If you're going to put the word separatist in there, I'm going to keep injecting the word illegal into that. America, Downing explained, has got a lot of bad dudes, tough dudes with guns, and ICE is willing to deal with it and send them all back. Some media reporting in Canada has framed the separatist movement as being primarily motivated by a lack of political representation in Ottawa and federal regulations that limit expansion of Alberta's oil and gas industry. It's far beyond that. It's abuse. It's no seat at the table. It's no representation. Again, a third of the population of Alberta has more Senate seats in the East than Alberta does, and we've been told to just shut up and pay for the East's projects, the East's cost of living, while Alberta just, gets the pickaxes and sends the money. It's beyond the oil and gas industry. David Parker, a former federal and provincial conservative staffer who is the founder of Take Back Alberta, a conservative political advocacy group, highlighted mass immigration as a key motivator for seeking provincial independence. Again, yes, that's part of it, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. If Canada continues to bring in the number of people that they are at the rate that they are, it will be a failed state, he said. It's being used to dilute the population. They're degrading our quality of life, our medical system, our healthcare, our education system. It's all falling apart because of mass immigration. Now, I do have another video coming out about the money that's been spent to date on hotels, on the costs of bringing these illegal asylum seekers over to Canada, and some really bizarre new rules. Keep your eyes peeled for that, because that's a whole nother can of worms. That was echoed by Cameron Davies, it says, the leader of the Alberta Republicans, a separatist political party. Davies, who recently lost the provincial by-election in Olds Didsbury Three Hills, cited recent hopes of Alberta Premier Danielle Smith to get the mid-size city of Red Deer to 1 million people by 2050. That is a leftist agenda policy, he said, of the Conservative Premier's plan, and it needs to be rejected by every Conservative. So what's funny is, I've actually spoken to Premier Smith about this. Now, she had said that talking about getting the population boosted by 2050 is not illegal migrants. She was talking about bringing more Canadians into Alberta, meaning tradespeople, those with skills, families that decided they wanted a better life in Alberta by moving to Alberta because we'd have more jobs, better pay, lower taxes. It's so funny how many articles, so many journalists lean on this 2050 deal to make it sound as though Danielle Smith was pulling a Justin Trudeau and opening the doors. In fact, if you followed Danielle Smith in the news, she's actually been very negatively labeled for telling Ottawa we're not taking any more of these illegal migrants or asylum seekers. These and other remarks were met with frequent applause and occasional whoops and hollers from the mostly middle or senior-aged audience gathered at the Red Deer Curling Club. It says here that the identity of Alberta in opposition to the rest of Canada came up a lot at the event. Albertans can be narrowly defined as hard workers, according to the Western Standard publisher and president, Derek Fildebrandt. Shout out to the Western Standard, adding that Albertans are less differential towards institutions compared to Ontarians. Well, again, Alberta keeps sending them the money. We're the ones working our butts off, and we're getting nothing in return. The province has always had a more American ethos, he said. It was not peace, order, and good government. It was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet admiration for the U.S. was linked by one speaker to a very specific brand of American ideology promoting small government, Cameron Davies, from the America Fund, noted approvingly that some U.S. states are attempting to pass legislation that severely limits the jurisdiction and power of the federal government. Now, it says here Davies from the American Fund. Cam Davies was with the Alberta Republicans, unless there's another Davies that we're talking about here. Dozens of these states, Davies explains, have either passed legislation or are passing legislation for the Convention of States. He was referring to the movement with ties to the Texas evangelical pastor and oil billionaire Tim Dunn, which aims to implement Project 2025-like policy through permanent constitutional change and is receiving endorsements from politicians such as Sarah Palin. Now, again, I've reached out to Sarah Palin for comment on this. Former Governor Palin is a friend of the channel. She's amazing. I love any time I get to talk with her. Haven't heard back from her. If I hear back from her, I will definitely update you guys on that one. Fox News host Sean Hannity and numerous other members of the Trump administration are cabinet. So again, it goes on to paint this picture that it's all MAGA, 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 and Trump that are pushing Alberta to separate, claim independence. Modry had said that if separatists at the event were successful in passing the independence referendum, they could potentially count on Trump or the U.S. Secretary of State to back the outcome. He claimed that this is a request he made to U.S. officials during their meeting in Washington. At the time of successful referendum, you acknowledge Alberta's sovereignty to the Alberta government and to the rest of the world. So what this is, essentially, what Dr. Modry is asking for anybody who's not getting what's being discussed here as this journalist twists the tale, is essentially Dr. Modry was asking for the U.S. to back Alberta independence should a referendum vote be successful, meaning it's already perceived that Ottawa and the federal government are expected to negotiate in good faith. We've talked about this before, that the federal government, provincial governments, as well as First Nations are obligated in good faith to sit down at the table to discuss Alberta's exit in the succession of a valid referendum vote. What's funny about this is that it's uncharted territory. No province has actually reached that point. So what they're doing is preemptive to say if the federal government did not sit down in good faith, if they did not sit down to talk about Alberta's exit, if they chose to ignore Alberta's referendum, can they count on the United States to support and recognize Alberta as a sovereign nation, essentially assisting Alberta in getting out, to make sure that the grasp of the federal government and the crown doesn't sit over top of Alberta? I don't see a problem with it. I think that's beneficial. Again, I think we'd have a great working relationship with the United States. We'd love to work with the Donald. He's a wonderful guy. Okay. He does great things. He's got good policies. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this claim of $500 million being offered to assist in transition for Alberta? What do you think about Donald Trump's administration discussing a potential assist should Alberta become independent? Do you think that this labels it as a MAGA branded independence claim, or is Alberta just looking for a little bit of a hand, making sure they can get away from the federal government? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that button, turn on your bell for all notifications so that you never miss a beat whenever a video drops on the channel. Join me live each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe here on the channel, where I sit down with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I always look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.